Hey scholars, welcome to chapter 21-3 where we're looking at a little bit more at reusing and recycling and why is it so important. So we're going to take a look at that today. When we look at it, reusing is basically cleaning and using materials over and over again. The downside of reusing is that in developing countries, people often scavenge open dumps, so like looking for things that they could use again. But as they're scavenging around, they're being exposed to diseases and dangerous materials that have been thrown away. And so that's as far as reusing go in developing countries, kind of a bad deal. Even here in the United States with dumpster diving and homeless people, we have that issue. But another good thing, an upside of reusing is like Salvation Army, Goodwill, where people can purchase, products they can reuse again from somebody else that might have been discarded by someone else, but they are using them for the same exact purpose, and they're getting it for a lot cheaper price. So that is an upside of reusing. You can do this same thing as salvaging automobile parts. Like if you take brakes, or when you're having your brakes changed, they can take those and melt that metal down. Well, I guess that's not really reusing, but they can take different parts from different cars, like a scrapyard, and you can go there. Let's say like you busted your mirror, you can go there and the scrapyard, you can take the mirror from one car, put on a mirror of another one, or the car of another one, and now you've got a mirror and you're using a part over again, even though that wasn't being used by somebody else. It's sitting in the salvage yard. Also, rechargeable batteries, another example of reusing. You're using the battery over again, you can recharge it, gets to its full fuel capacity, and then bam, you can use it again. So those are a couple of examples there. The case study on using refillable containers, and I have mine. Hold on, let me get it 1 second. This is my refillable container right here. It's made out of PET plastic or polyethylene terephthalate, which is a refillable soft drink bottle. Very, very hard plastic. You can use refillable glass bottles as well. I choose plastic so I don't break it all the time. But that is that's one good thing is a good thing about it. The only problem with it is it is made of hard plastic, very hard to recycle though. Although it is recyclable. I don't know if you can see that. It's recyclable, symbol number 7, so it can be recycled. But it can get a lot of uses out of this, and I use this quite often to help me refuel as far as water goes. Paper and plastic are reusable cloth bags. The pros of this, looking at reusable cloth bags, and we've talked about this before when we did our first lesson on P times A times T equals I lab, which is way back in the day. The pros of cloth bags are they are reusable. They don't have to use plastic bags or paper bags to cut down any trees. The cons of those, they're very, how should I say this? Just not as convenient for Americans. You have to remember to bring all of them with you and bring them to the store. Some people prefer to use plastic bags for other things in their home, like wastebasket liners. And there's things like that. So there's pros and cons of all those. I think the reusable cloth bags are a great idea. Unfortunately, I don't know if America is gonna really buy into it totally because how inconvenient it actually is. Let's take a look at energy consumption involved with using different types of containers. This being 350 milliliters. An aluminum can used once, actually, energy to produce it is in 30,000 kilocalories of energy. Steel can used once, about 24. Recycled steel can, 16. Glass drink bottle used only once, then thrown away or discarded, 16 energy per 1,000 kilocalories. We're looking at aluminum cans, recycled aluminum cans getting lower, recycled glass drink bottles again, but refillable drink bottles used 10 times. I've used this 100 times. Saves a ton of energy and production. If I use this twice out of 10 times, I'm just cutting that little bar in half again. So you can get this down to barely anything as far as energy overall. So I think it's definitely a good idea to use refillable drink bottles as much as you can. All right, so what can you do for reusing? Buy beverages in refillable glass containers instead of cans or throwaway bottles. Use reusable plastic or metal lunch boxes. Bring those back. Those are kind of old school vintage. Carry sandwiches and store food in refrigerator and reusable containers instead of wrapping them in aluminum foil or plastic wrap. Actually get one of those plastic bins to hold them in. Use rechargeable batteries, recycle them when their life is low. Carry grocery and other items using either reusable baskets or a canvas or string bags or a small cart where you can just turn it back in. You use reusable sponges, washcloth, napkins, dish towel, old school handkerchiefs. Don't know if I really want to use those. My grandpa used to have one, snot in it, put it back in his pocket, kind of gross. But instead of throwaway paper ones, some of those I think we need to just because of sanitation situations. But buy used furniture, computers, cars, other items instead of buying new. Go to Goodwill, go to Salvation Army, buy those things. You know, like you can, if you're looking for something, give away or sell your items that you no longer use. Use Craigslist. Use those things to, you know, not just throw away, but get rid of and maybe make something in return for them. Okay. There are two types of recycling. There's primary closed loop recycling, where you're creating a new product of the same type. So if I take aluminum cans, I break it down, and then I make them into another aluminum can. It doesn't have to be the same brand name, but it's still an aluminum can. The next one is secondary recycling, or it's basically converting the waste into converting into a different product. For instance, taking tires, old tires that are no longer used as far as tread goes or too worn down, and shredding those into making a track or a road surface for people to run on or drive on. And so that's an example of a secondary. You're taking something and you're creating a totally different product out of it. Types of waste that can be recycled are your pre-consumer, which are done by the manufacturer. Those are called internal waste, or post-consumer waste or external waste done by the consumer. You know, after you're done with the product, you would discard it. That's an external waste. All right. All right, let's take a look at material recovery facilities, or MRFs as I call them. Basically what these guys do is you take your trash there, they separate the mixed waste and recover valuable materials from those. There's other ways you can do this called a source separation. You can pay as you throw, or a fee per bag system. We're going to talk about this in class about which program is most cost effective, which is friendlier for the environment. I'm going to get your opinion on after you read about it, but we'll come back to source separation in class. Composting, individual and municipal. Composting, we have one here on campus. There's benefits. It's a natural process. Decomposition through bacteria, no added chemicals, just adding a little bit of water, which is natural. And there's actually been a successful program as far as municipal in Edmonton, Alberta, where it's actually a huge composting facility, 8 football fields as far as in size, and on 50% of the cities actually does 50% of the city's solid waste. But it has to go through some separating and things like that. But it is awesome. If you ever check our compost pile outside of our classroom, kind of looks like this. It's more of a dome shape, but it has a similar thing where you put your garbage and you have I shouldn't say garbage, but compostable garbage like kitchen scraps, like bread and things like that you would, maybe you want the crust on your pizza, you throw that in there. You also add some leaves and some different greens to it, add some water. The bacteria help decompose that for you, churn it, and eventually you can scoop out from this spot right here actual fertilizer for your crops. So it's a really great idea. So let's take a look at our case study of recycling paper. Now, production of paper versus recycled paper. When you are looking at it, energy is used 64% less energy when you're doing recycled paper, using 35% water pollution, also 74% less air pollution. And countries that are superb in recycling right now are not us. We're not the best by far. Denmark and the European Union is kicking our rear ends as far as recycling goes. South Korea at 77%, Germany 72%, U.S. right now is only at 56% recycling overall. And the best thing about this is replacement of chlorine-based bleaching chemicals with like hydrogen peroxide or actually oxygen to whiten the paper, because I know bleaching can be kind of dangerous as far as water pollution goes. So, and we know that when we're using paper, we're trying to get it to be as white as possible, so we can write on it. But that's where we're at with that. All right, so let's take a look at studying recycling plastics, case study on recycling plastics. So paper is a good thing. We definitely should recycle paper. Recycling plastic is composed of different resins that are monomers linked together that are extracted from oil and natural gases. That's what plastics are made out of. So we're using them for non-renewable. Most containers are actually discarded. Only 4% of plastics are actually recycled in the U.S. And sometimes that's because as far as energy goes, recycling plastic actually uses more energy than it saves energy. So, but the problem with it is if we keep throwing it away, we're seeing a lot of it as litter on beaches and water. And the problem with that is we're seeing organisms die, choke on that as far as plastic bags. And we've seen can rings get stuck around birds' heads. You know, it's becoming a problem. And those things do not break down very easily in landfills. So if we are going to make things, and even though we might use a little bit more energy, I still think it's worth it in the long run. So we're not seeing, you know, overflow of our landfills as well as this stuff washing up on beaches. All right, so low plastic recycling rate. It's hard to isolate one type of plastic. That's why we have the numbers on them telling you what type of chemicals are made up in that, making that plastic up. Low yields of plastic and cheaper to make. It's really actually obviously cheaper for the producer to make it new than it is to recycle it and also use a little more energy. So that's kind of the issue with that. But if we don't do it, we're going to see it washing up on beaches, which is pretty gross overall to see. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be those two ladies hanging out at that beach. All right, so science focus, bioplastics. Actually, we think we can make plastics instead of using non-renewables out of soybeans. It's not really a new concept. We know about biofuels and it producing oil. Why don't we just turn that oil into making it into plastics? So the key to bioplastics is using a catalyst to accelerate reactions to form those polymers that are strong enough to make into plastics. And we not only have to use soybeans, we can use corn and also sugarcane as well. So there's lots of ways that we're thinking about doing this and making plastics not even from oil or natural gas. We're actually thinking about making them from living things, which is kind of cool. All right. Also, they're lighter, stronger, cheaper, and biodegradable, which is the benefit of having bioplastics. Can definitely look for them in the future. Recycling has its advantages and disadvantages. Let's take a look at it today. Advantages is reduces air and water pollution, saves on energy, reduces mineral demand, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, reduces solid waste that would go to landfill or disposal or burning it off. Protects biodiversity, can save landfill space, like I said earlier, and it's an important part of the economy. People are making money off of recycling things, which is good. Disadvantages can cost more than burying in areas with lots of landfill space, if there's lots of space to go, but eventually we're going to run out of space, let's be honest. May lose money for items such as glass and some plastics because of, it's actually cheaper to make them from new. Reduces profits for landfill and incinerator owners, who they make their money from doing that. And also source separation is inconvenient for some people. Some people don't like to separate their garbage out. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why recycling isn't as prevalent here in the United States and as other places, because we're just lazy, let's be honest, as far as separating our garbage and our waste. All right, so what hinders reusing and recycling? Lots of things, mostly inconvenience, let's be honest. But there's things that government can do actually help us reuse and recycle by increasing subsidies and tax breaks for using products that are being able to reuse or recycle. Decrease subsidies and tax breaks for making items from new materials and making them from scratch. There's also, we can encourage reusing and recycling with that fee per bag collection system, which is basically just paying, for every bag that you bring in, you're paying per bag. Could be new laws. There also should be some citizen pressure from people, bottom-up pressure to encourage more reusing and recycling and promoting, which we are here at this school, hopefully, and continue to do in the near future. We'll see you guys next time when we take a look at what are the disadvantages and advantages of burning or burying all of our waste if we don't tend to use recycling or reusing or reducing. See you guys next time.